Want to up your Bloody Mary game? Or make a sauce that'll put your local pizza place to shame? Canned tomatoes may not seem very exciting, but with these kitchen hacks, they can turn into a versatile ingredient in your kitchen. Perhaps the biggest problem with canned tomatoes is the bitterness. You know, a sharp, metallic flavor that persists even after seasoning your sauce with spices. The acidity of the tomatoes and preservatives is typically the culprit here. Thankfully, there's one simple trick to counteract this unpleasant aspect. A pinch of sugar can balance out the bitterness and improve the flavor of tomatoes that aren't naturally sweet enough. While you may balk at the thought of putting sugar in your spaghetti, just remember that many bottled tomato sauces contain high levels of sugar. By making your sauce from scratch, you can control the amount of sugar you add. Many recipes recommend adding sugar near the end since the cooking process itself can release natural sweetness from the tomatoes. If the sauce is still bitter, add small pinches of sugar at a time. Be careful not to oversweeten your sauce or it can quickly veer into ketchup territory. If you're dealing with overly acidic canned tomatoes, sometimes sugar just isn't the answer.
Don't care for it. I'm a baking soda gal.
Another trick to balance out the bitterness is to add a touch of baking soda. Common advice is to add a quarter teaspoon at a time to your tomato-based sauce as it's cooking. Or you can start with a pinch and sprinkle in more as needed, tasting your food as you go to avoid overdoing it. Expect to see some fizzing as the baking soda reacts with the acid in the tomatoes. This means it's working. The baking soda raises the pH of the tomatoes, resulting in a less acidic dish. Make sure not to go overboard with the baking soda, however. Too much can alter the flavor profile and ruin your recipe. If you're looking to introduce sweetness without the added sugar, carrots are naturally sweet and can help round out the flavors of your sauce, soup, or other tomato-based recipes. Giada De Laurentiis, chef and host of Food Network's Giada at Home, adds a carrot to her simple tomato sauce recipe. Along with carrots, Giada's recipe includes sautéed onion, garlic, and celery, as well as canned crushed tomatoes, bay leaves, and basil. To achieve a smooth finish, she puts everything into a food processor. This method avoids any additives that could potentially throw off your recipe, while still ensuring a perfectly smooth texture and flavor. There's nothing like biting into a sweet roasted tomato that's bursting with flavor and freshness. Thankfully, you don't have to wait for peak tomato season. While it might seem strange, you can actually roast tomatoes from the can. The trick is to use whole tomatoes. Whole canned tomatoes are the least processed of the bunch, so they'll be your best bet for a bold, fresh tomato flavor. After draining them, cut the tomatoes in half and remove the seeds. Then place them in a pan. From there, you have free reign over your toppings. After drizzling on the olive oil, feel free to get creative with the herbs and spices as you would with fresh tomatoes. In addition to salt and pepper, other delicious options include garlic, rosemary, thyme, red pepper flakes, and smoked paprika. This simple trick will hold you over until summer, when the farmers' markets are teeming with juicy red tomatoes. You may be tempted to open a can of tomatoes and dump the entire contents into a sauce or soup, but if the end goal is a thick consistency, there's one trick that can help you out. Straining your tomatoes before you add them to the pot can result in a less watery texture. Be sure to save the juice in a bowl in case you need to add more liquid later to adjust the consistency. Another benefit of straining your tomatoes is that it improves the taste. By removing the seeds, you'll also reduce the bitterness they contribute. Pour the can into a bowl, cut off the stems, and squeeze the tomatoes with your hands. The seeds should fall back into the bowl with the tomato juice. Set aside the squeezed tomatoes, then pour the bowl with the juice through a fine mesh strainer to catch all the seeds. You should end up with tomatoes that are more flavorful and less bitter. Plus, seed-free tomatoes will make your sauce or soup even smoother. It can be overwhelming trying to choose between all the different types of canned tomatoes. You may be tempted to pick up a can of diced tomatoes to save some time on chopping. If you're making a recipe that calls for a smooth texture, however, you'll want to use whole or crushed tomatoes. Diced tomatoes take longer to break down when cooking thanks to calcium chloride, a compound added to the can to help the chunks retain their shape. This means you likely won't end up with a smooth consistency no matter how long you stir the pot. Instead, opt for whole or crushed tomatoes that are less processed and break down nicely when cooked. Always make sure to check the label though, as some brands add calcium chloride to all their varieties, even the whole tomatoes. Far from useless, diced tomatoes still have their place in the kitchen. For example, they come in handy when making more textured recipes such as stew or chili. Since they hold their shapes so well, you'll still find discernible chunks of tomato when it comes time to eat. It's no secret that whole canned tomatoes tend to pack more flavor than their processed counterparts. However, it can be a hassle to prepare whole tomatoes when it's so easy to just buy chopped or crushed ones instead. When opting for whole tomatoes, most people likely remove them from the can and chop them on a cutting board. But this takes time and adds to the pile of dishes to wash. Luckily, there's one easy trick to quickly break up whole tomatoes. No cutting board required. After opening your can, take a pair of clean kitchen shears and dip them directly into the tomatoes. With this method, you can cut them into your preferred size before they even leave the can. This simple step barely adds to your cooking time, but can have a big impact on the final flavor. If you want noticeable chunks of tomato in your recipe but still want to use whole tomatoes, set aside some pieces and add them when you're further along in your cooking. This way you'll still get some texture without having to use tomatoes processed with calcium chloride. Pizza sauce comes in many forms at the store, including cans, jars, and squeeze bottles. However, many pre-made sauces are packed with sugar, sodium, preservatives, and who knows what else. Plus, they rarely taste as good as homemade versions. Fortunately, it's not too difficult or time-consuming to whip up a pizza sauce using canned tomatoes. In fact, you might already have all the ingredients in your pantry.
This makes any kind of red sauce right here. It starts with this can.
Mashed recipe developer Kristen Carley uses canned tomato sauce, tomato paste, Italian seasoning, salt, and pepper in her personal pizza sauce recipe. You can also add cayenne pepper and red chili flakes for an extra kick of flavor. Canned tomato sauce consists of tomatoes that have been cooked and blended to a smooth consistency. Alternatively, you can make your own by cooking down whole or crushed tomatoes. To make the pizza sauce, throw everything into a saucepan and bring it to a boil. Then simmer it on low for 10 minutes and there you have it. This simple sauce is sure to impress on your next pizza night. Salsa is the perfect topping or dip for any number of foods. But before you reach for that dubious jar that's been sitting at the back of your fridge, know that making salsa from scratch is as easy as pressing a button on your food processor. While you may consider it heresy to use anything but fresh ingredients, consider using canned tomatoes in a pinch. Of course, chunky salsas like pico de gallo require fresh tomatoes, but many restaurant-style salsa recipes call for canned ones. Tasting Table's fire-roasted salsa recipe mixes fresh jalapenos, onion, garlic, cilantro, and limes with canned tomatoes. For their recipe, make sure to use fire-roasted diced tomatoes for extra flavor. Chop everything up, give it a few pulses in a blender or food processor, and after an hour in the fridge, this salsa is ready to enjoy with tortilla chips or your favorite pairing. Unless you're doubling or tripling your recipe, you probably won't make it through an entire 28-ounce can of tomatoes. So what do you do with the rest? While you can resort to plastic wrap or Tupperware, you'll only have a few days to use them before the mold sets in. One solution is to freeze them. Simply portion your tomatoes into freezer bags and seal them without any air. They should last up to 6 months in the freezer, as this trick works with any type of canned tomato and even sauces. Thaw the bags on the counter or in the microwave to have tomatoes on hand whenever you need them. You can also stick your leftovers in an ice cube tray. This method works best with sauces or with crushed, diced, or pureed tomatoes. Just spoon the tomatoes into a tray and wait for them to freeze. You can also remove the cubes once frozen and transfer them into a freezer bag to save space. Most recipes only call for a very small amount of paste, leaving you with a half-empty can to store. You might opt to pour some olive oil on top of the remaining paste, stick it in the fridge, and hope it doesn't spoil before you need it again. Sure, you can buy tomato paste in resealable tubes and keep it in your fridge, but even those have limited shelf lives. For many, the solution is to store tomato paste in the freezer. TikToker Rebecca Huffman shared her clever trick for freezing tomato paste in snack-sized Ziploc bags. After filling, sealing, and flattening the bag, she uses the dull side of a knife to gently score them, dividing the paste into individual portions. The bags then head to the freezer, ready to be snapped off whenever a recipe calls for tomato paste.
And the next time you're gonna cook, you just break off the piece you want, and that's it. No waste.
Another method includes placing portions of tomato paste on or between sheets of parchment paper and freezing it this way. If you end up draining your canned tomatoes for a recipe, hold on to that delicious leftover juice. Instead of pouring it down the drain, use it to elevate any number of dishes. Make a tangy salad dressing or add it to the pot when cooking pasta to bring out a richer tomato taste. Leftover juice also makes a fantastic base for Mexican or Spanish rice, adding vibrant color and depth to the dish. You can also use it to build a tasty stock for a hearty stew. The possibilities are truly endless. If you don't plan on using the juice immediately, you can always freeze it. Like with tomato sauce and puree, you can freeze the juice in ice cube trays. When the inspiration strikes, just toss them into your pot to add a burst of tomato flavor to any recipe. They will also come in handy for drinks, as you can add them to your Bloody Marys the next time you whip up a batch.
Hey, everybody! Bloody Marys on me!
Frozen tomato cubes will only enhance your drink as they melt, unlike regular ice that dilutes it. To take your cocktail to the next level, try seasoning your tomato juice cubes before you freeze them. Experiment by adding salt and spices like basil, oregano, or chili powder. You can even include olives or pieces of celery for an extra snack when the juice melts. If Bloody Marys aren't your thing, you can also throw the frozen juice into a mocktail or smoothie for a non-alcoholic treat packed with tomato flavor.